Hello and welcome to the Versa Creative Podcast. My name is Tony Martinez and I'm an SEO specialist and our podcast host. Versa Creative is an award-winning advertising and marketing agency dedicated to empowering brands with result-driven strategies. The Versa Creative Podcast is our place to have a conversation on the marketing industry, marketing trends, and most importantly, talk to our Versa experts. On today's episode of the podcast, I'm actually going to speak with someone outside of Versa. I'm going to speak with our friend and expert, Darren Shaw of Whitespark. Hi Darren, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Could you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us more about Whitespark and yourself, Darren?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Darren Shaw. I've been doing SEO for since 2005-ish. It's been a long time. So, I started my company in 2005. Whitespark started off as a web development company, making websites for local businesses in my hometown of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And once you start making websites for people, ask you, hey, how do we get that website ranking better in Google? And so I started my deep dive into SEO and started offering SEO as a service. Then in 2010, we built our first software as a service, the Local Citation Finder. This is software that allows you to identify your own listings on the internet, plus your competitors' listings, and then it shows you the difference and be like, hey, these are all the places your competitors are listed. You should get listed there too. And so that software does that sort of, a citation gap analysis type stuff as well. So we've kind of evolved into a SaaS, very popular listing service where we go out on sites that matter and then build you out into things. It's kind of like you did it yourself. And so, yeah, those are the things that we do. We also have a GMB management service, actually. So it's a service for managing your Google listings, and we can even do full SEO in there. And a lot of agencies kind of white label that, outsource that stuff to us. So it's pretty full service. Everything to do with local search, we do it. And then of course I publish some industry publications like the Local Search Ranking Factors. I just put out the 2021 version last Monday, so it's just been out for a week. So that's a well-read, well-respected publication about the, what's driving local search. I survey all the local search experts and aggregate all the data and publish this, and then I go around speaking about it. I don't know, that was pretty,
thank you.
Too many things.
Yeah, thank you so much for introducing yourself. So like you said, we know that Whitespark is local experts, and that's why we're excited to have you today. So kind of just to explain to our listeners, local SEO is generally optimizing your website and its content for local search. So like you said, if you're a lawyer in Houston, you want to show up for that search, and you have to have content, listings, and your website pretty much, and all of your digital content optimized for that search term. If I miss anything, please let me know.
Yeah, well, local is the local pack. So you type in dentist Chicago, and you get that little 3-pack with a little map. That's what we're really talking about. So we specialize in helping businesses rank in that 3-pack and then deeper into the local results. And also on maps, if you use your Maps app on your phone, all the work that we do is focused on optimizing for that.
Perfect. Thank you for that explanation. But yeah, so like you said, you published a report recently, and we wanted to talk about that and kind of go over some. But before we do that, in your opinion, how does local SEO differ from general SEO?
Yeah, so it's just another layer on top because, regular SEO, you're really just trying to rank a website. And a website is ranked typically based off of all the content on the website, the technical stuff, making sure that it's fast and responsive and doesn't have any technical errors, plus all the content, right? And then you got to get links to that website. So, one side is being relevant for the terms that you're trying to rank for, and then being prominent for those terms is getting links to it. So that's how you basically rank a website in the most simple terms. Of course, there's a lot more to it. Now, if you're a local business, you still got to do that. You got to build a great website. You have to have lots of awesome content. You got to build links to your website. Plus, you got to do 3 other things. You've got to now manage your Google listing. So optimize your Google listing. You've got to get reviews. You got to really work on getting reviews both on Google and industry specific and other important sites in your industry. And you have to worry about a new thing called citations, which are your business listings out on the internet. So when you have, it's Google's local algorithm. In the original days when they first built it, most of the businesses they were trying to rank didn't have websites. And so the way that they would measure prominence is through citations, which is a mention of your name, address, and phone number somewhere on the web. It's typically like a business directory, like Yellow Pages or Yelp or those kinds of sites. And so those are called citations. And so you still have to do the two main things, website links, but now you got three other things to worry about, which is reviews, your GMB listing, and citations. So it's just more work. It's even more work to rank, but it's less competitive. So it's going to be a lot easier for you to rank only in your local community because your competition is a lot smaller than globally across the whole world trying to rank for something like sneakers, right?
Yeah, like you said, local is one part of SEO. It's just really helpful, especially if you're like you said, local business and you want to drive local traffic from your community. And that's one really easy and accessible way for a lot of businesses to grow their business. So you recently, as mentioned, published the 2021 Local Search Ranking Factors. In this report, you and other experts dive in on changes in local search and different factors. Could you introduce our listeners to this report?
Yeah, so the report back in 2008, and so he ran that survey for years. His company eventually got acquired by Moz, and then he ran the survey through Moz. The Local Search Ranking Factors was often thought of as like a Moz thing. And then in 2017, he kind of shifted his attention to email marketing. He's building a company called Tidings, and so he just was stepping slightly adjacent to local search, and he handed the reins of the survey over to me to sort of execute the survey, analyze the data, publish the results. And so I started doing that in 2017, and it's just been this industry Bible about how to rank in local search, because the way that survey works is we ask the top experts in the field a number of questions, and we get them to be like, okay, so there's this list of like 122 potential signals that Google's looking at. Things like, keywords in your business name, links to your website, number of reviews on Google, star rating on Google. Like there's 122 of these different signals that it's theorized that Google considers in the ranking algorithm. And then we get the experts to sort of pick their top 20 and sort them in terms of order of importance. And then when you have 42 people that are the best in the field doing that, and you aggregate the data, it surfaces to the top what is absolutely hands down the most important thing to focus on, and what has more weight than other things. Like that's a big question that SEOs are always trying to, it's like, where should I put my time? Is it more important for me to do this activity or this activity? And that's what the report surfaces.
One of the most interesting parts of the report to me was it tracks year over year what's changing and what's becoming more important. Like I think this year for 2021, now the most important thing is like the business category on your Google My Business, or now Google Business profile, just making sure that that's accurate. The Google Business profile category is just like identifying your business accurately. So I think in the report, it talks about like, if you're a criminal defense attorney, you want to make sure that your category is criminal defense attorney and not law firm. Just again, helping you with that visibility.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's one of the big mistakes that people make. It has more impact on anything else on your Google listing is what your primary category is. And that makes sense. It's like you're basically saying to Google, this is what my business is. And so there's no stronger signal that can impact your rankings. If you're a criminal defense attorney and you set your primary category to be towing company, you can forget ranking for criminal defense attorney. It's the most important thing. And so I think most businesses, it's pretty obvious what they're going to put in as their primary category, but that law firm one is the example case where people get it wrong. What you really want to do is think about, does the primary category closely match the keywords that I really care to rank for? And so do you really want to rank for law firm, or do you want to rank for criminal defense attorney, right? Criminal lawyer, those kinds of things. The fact that the word criminal is in there, that should be your clear indicator that that's the primary category that you want to pick. So it's super important. And the nice thing about it is that it's a 10-second optimization. You go into Google business profile, you look at your categories, you go to choose your category and just look through the list and find the one that's the closest match to the thing you want to rank for, and then the rest. Only takes a second.
Yeah, I think the second, if I'm recalling correctly, on this like now most important might have been including primary keywords or like keywords in the Google business profile title. So if let's say your business is called Star Restaurant and you're a pizza place, you don't obviously want to be just listed as Star Restaurant. You might want to be Star Restaurant Neapolitan pizza or New York style pizza, whatever it might be. And again, kind of just helping you show up to your relevant audience. Is that correct?
It is correct, but it is a sketchy issue. So it's a contentious one because it absolutely, hands down, has a massive impact on your ability to rank in local search. So if your business is called Star Restaurant, but you sell Neapolitan pizza, and you go and you make your name Star Restaurant Neapolitan Pizza in Denver, for example, right? So now you're really helping your rankings because you've added Neapolitan, you've added pizza, you've added Denver. All those keywords that you've put into the business title, hands down, will have an incredible impact on your rankings. And the impact is overnight. We have tested this. It's like a skyrocket to the top of the rankings in one day. So what else can you ever do that has that kind of impact to local rankings? It's phenomenal. The problem is that it's against Google's guidelines to represent your business name as something other than your actual business name. If your business name is Star Restaurant and you put keywords in there, you run the risk of getting suspended. So you can get your listing suspended, removed from Google. So it's a sketchy thing. And so this is an awkward thing because in the report, we're telling people, hey, this has a huge impact on rankings. But it's not really a recommendation to go and do it. It's all we're doing is saying this hands down affects rankings. And so what we have done in our service is we've helped a number of our clients rebrand, just completely change their business. Then if anyone ever reported you for stuffing keywords in your business name, you could say, well, actually, that's my business name. Look, here's the proof. I got signage. I got all my staff wearing T-shirts that has the right business name. You know, that's what you need to do. And then Google's like, okay, well, that's your business name. So there's really no guideline violation. So that's the way to do it. So it's a big endeavor, but the reward is so big. It can change a business. It can revolutionize a business. A business can go from making, $100,000 a year to $1 million a year just because they're driving so much business from Google. Now, the problem is that people are wising up to this, and so now everybody's trying to do it. And there's a lot of cheaters that are actually not doing the full thing. And so there's this whole new industry that is sprung up called spam fighting, and that's where you report your competitors for stuffing keywords into the business name, try to get them suspended, and then when they get removed, you go up, right? So it's just a whole mess, really. Google's made a big mess by putting so much emphasis on keywords.
No, yeah, there's definitely a fine line for it. Like you said, you want to make sure that it's your legal business name, but also if you are going to be sketchy with it, I guess you shouldn't be. But it's obvious when it's sketchy because you see, like you said, keyword stuffing, and you see a restaurant listed under fresh pizza, New York style pizza, delivery pizza, whatever it might be, just things that are clearly not a business name.
Yeah, and it's tough. Google doesn't really police it either. They're like, oh, go ahead and change business name. But Google will automatically have like a whole system that's crawling the web all the time, and they'll just make a change to your business name. So if everything else out on the internet doesn't really match that, then Google will often update it automatically for you. So then you're always going back in there and having to change it back. But yeah, you really only run the risk if a competitor reports you, someone else reports you. That's where you can risk getting your listing suspended.
Could you tell us more about the other factors? I know we talked about the category and the business name. What are the other top categories that become more important this year?
Yeah, the additional categories too is really big. So so it's almost like you've got your primary category set, let's say criminal defense attorney, but you also do tax law, you also do bankruptcy law, you also do other sort of things in your law firm. So that's where the additional categories come in. And every additional category you add is almost like, I want to rank for this keyword too. And so you now have the chance of ranking. You typically won't rank as well as businesses that set that other like tax law as their primary category, because you're basically saying, Google's like, someone goes to Google and type in tax lawyers. Google's going to be like, here's all the tax lawyers, people primary category. But then these ones also said that they're tax lawyers. So they typically don't rank as well unless they have other signals pushing them forward. And then the other signals that are super important would be things like reviews. So the volume of reviews tends to really play a role. So having more reviews than your competition in space is a really big one. Having good ratings, so making sure that you're in the sort of 4 to 5 range for review score. Really having a good website, I think, is a big one that I think many businesses overlook. There's a lot of really small, and the huge mistake that they make is not enough content. So if you want to do something, you really have to tell Google that you are relevant and authoritative, whatever it is. So if it's, let's say it's tax lawyers, to use the example, you need to have a lot of content on your page that says that you are an authority and you are relevant for tax lawyers. And so that's not just one paragraph on your website. Let's say somewhere you put a bullet point that says services offered, tax law. Just because that word appears once on your website is certainly not enough to help Google rank you for it. You need to have a whole page on tax law, maybe sub pages on the different aspects of tax law. You should have the best content. If Google is looking for a page on tax lawyers in Denver, you should be the best page on tax lawyers in Denver. That means a really long page, frequently asked questions, details about how cases are done, case studies, pulling in your reviews, really building out great content, I think is one of the most valuable things you can do to improve your rankings in the local and on the organic side.
Yeah, there's definitely the connection between the local and the organic. The better your content is, that you're going to just perform so much better on both. So in the report, it dives in on like the different factors and the impact that they have. Different factors will impact different businesses differently, obviously. So like for like commerce and stuff, I know reviews, I think were emphasized more. Business listings I think are more important for like services. Could you tell us more about like this information?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I actually don't think it varies too much based on businesses. I think that how the algorithm that Google uses to rank businesses is the same for a plumber as it is for like a retail store. It's basically the same signals that they're looking at across the board. I actually don't see much of a difference in any industry.
All right, good to know. Are there any like, I guess like similar to that, are there any misinformations or like false approaches, or maybe things that people are emphasizing that aren't as important now as they once were?
Yeah, for sure. So last year was the first year that I introduced a new section in the survey, and I asked the participants, what are some things that definitely don't help rankings? They just have no impact on rankings whatsoever. And so I added this question because I wanted to do a little bit of myth busting. There's a lot of stuff that you see out there in the SEO space that's just wrong. It's just people saying things that this will have an impact on your rankings, but it doesn't. And so I was pleased to see this year, the number one thing that people said, the experts said, does not impact rankings at all whatsoever, is geotagging your photos before uploading them to GMB or even putting them on your website. Geotagging your photos is completely useless activity. So the idea there is that you're adding like geo coordinates plus keywords to the EXIF data of the photos. So sort of like behind the scenes way to stuff keywords into your photos and then you upload them to Google. We actually have an authority from Google themselves saying that they strip all that data. So they strip it all out, and they actually have to strip it all out because people could put all kinds of profanity or whatever they want in that data, and then it ends up on Google servers, and then they deliver that back to the customer. And so it's actually important for them to strip that data out of the photos. But there are a lot of people hawking this as a rankings booster, that you want to put keywords into your photos and then upload them to GMB, or put them on your website, whatever. But Google doesn't use that data at all. They just completely ignore it because they can't trust it. It's user provided data, right? So because they can't trust it, it's just completely thrown out. Other ones are, a lot of these myths are around keyword stuffing the content on your Google listing. So it's really important to know that, if you put keywords in your Google business profile description, no impact. You cannot influence rankings by adding keywords to your description, by adding keywords to your services, keywords to your products. Any of the fields in Google business profile, they actually don't impact ranking. The only fields that impact ranking on your business profile are your primary category, your additional categories, and keywords in the business title. All the other fields, there's no value in keyword stuffing them, but a lot of people think that there is. And so there's no point adding keywords to any of those additional fields. Now there's the one caveat there is Google Posts, and it's not for ranking. The only reason you would want to make sure that you've got kind of the keywords you're targeting in Google Posts is because Google is using that sometimes for a justification. So if you're already ranking, let's say someone typed in tax lawyers Denver, and then you had a Google post that said tax lawyers, like our tax law services or whatever, you made a Google post about that, then you can get this little blue tag on your listing in the map pack that says, it just basically pulls out a snippet from your Google post. It's not a ranking thing, but it does pull that out. It makes your listing stand out from the competition. So you're not adding keywords to Google Posts to help you rank better. You're adding the keywords to the Google Posts and making sure you're doing posts about all your different services so that they get pulled in as justifications. But that's another big myth. People think that adding keywords all across your Google listing will have an impact on rankings, but it doesn't.
Any other big takeaways you want to emphasize from the report, Darren?
Yeah, there's a big trend. I do always want to talk about this one because over the last 7 years of the survey, you can see this trend of emphasis on Google My Business, Google Business Profile signals, right? So if you look way back in 2013, or actually 2015, the Google Business Profile signals were only about 15% of the overall makeup of what's driving local search. Over the course of the last 7 years, it's increased up to 36%. So that might make you think, oh, I should put a lot of effort into my Google optimization, and spend less time maybe on my website or less time on links or reviews. That's the wrong takeaway. So even though we've seen this increase over time of importance of Google signals, there actually isn't very little optimization to do on your Google listing. Like I mentioned, it's just primary category, additional categories, rebranding, I guess, your business. If you wanted to do that, that's actually a decent amount of work. But the bulk of so just because this takes up the largest piece of the pie, Google signals, it doesn't mean that should represent the amount of effort you put. Probably the most amount of time you're going to put is in working on your website content, creating new content, optimizing content. That's where the bulk of your SEO work should really be focused, and getting reviews, continuing to work on a really good review strategy. Those are the things you're going to have the biggest impact. So the Google 36% really represents the weighting of these different signals, right? So yes, it's no question that how close you are to the searcher, your primary category, keywords in the business name, these signals have a huge impact on your ranking, but they just don't represent a lot of optimization work. So that's something that I always want to talk about. And I guess the other one, since you're asking, is the Google My Business or Google Business Profile conversion factors. So this is a thing that a lot of people don't think about. They think about local SEO only in terms of rankings, but One business might rank number one in the local results. But then if you look at their Google business profile, like their listing on Google, it doesn't really tell you very much of it. It's got name, address, phone number. There isn't even a photo up there. The listing itself is flat. Can you imagine if you launched a website and the only thing you put on your website was your name, address, and phone number? You think that's going to attract anyone to like pick up the phone and call you? You haven't convinced them that you're a good business. And the same thing happens on your Google business profile. It's really important to think about that as your website, really, because over the course of the last 10 years, Google has added so many features to that it has an incredible amount of opportunity to optimize and then speak to your customer, convince them that you are the business that they should call. And you can do that through adding photos, adding products, adding Google posts, adding a Q&A section, building out your services. There's so much in there. It's basically becomes almost like an entire website. And these days, people that are shopping for local business services, they often don't go to the website. They don't have to, because all the information is right there on Google. They're browsing the listings, they're reading the reviews, they're seeing the Google posts, they're learning about the businesses right on Google, and they don't have to go to the website. So if you haven't taken the time to optimize your listing for conversions, then you are absolutely missing out. And this is something that I added to the survey last year to speak about Google business profile conversion factors. And so, these are the things you need to think about and really work on so that you're the one that gets the phone call, not some other competitor.
Yeah, I think especially nowadays, it's unfortunately kind of common to see incomplete, even now, Google business profiles. Especially if you look at like restaurants and stuff. I think restaurants is one of the ones that people are going to be most familiar with, and that you, I guess I might see more often. But definitely you notice when a business has like their menu listed, you can see what apps deliver, you can order from, things like that, just to make the experience better and definitely improve with conversions.
It's huge. It has a huge impact. And the rule of thumb here is if there's a field in Google, fill it out. Just every single field, optimize all of them. And then it's a matter of managing it, right? Like you shouldn't just put up your Google posts and be like, oh, okay, I'm all done. Every week you should have a new post. What's special? What's the thing happening? Offer posts work really well on Google. So if you have a special or a deal, putting that up, you can drive direct conversions from it. And I really look at a lot of this stuff as free advertising on Google. People are paying thousands of dollars a month to have advertisements on Google. But you actually have it for free right on your Google business profile. You could be adding all of that stuff and making your listing stand out. People will see that, they will convert, and it drives considerable business, especially considering Google is the #1 source people use to discover businesses, local businesses. It's incredibly powerful, and it has a huge impact on your ability to drive revenue for your company.
I wanted to take a step away from local for a quick second. Earlier this year, and one of the reasons we wanted to have you on the podcast was because we learned a lot from you in a conversation we had earlier this year. Like you mentioned earlier, we use Whitespark's keyword tracking software. We use it, with it you have the option to track local, pack, organic, and for various clients, we might just be tracking organic. And one of the things we do with that software is track performance, and we can see changes month over month, actually daily since the track, depending on how often you have it crawling. We use that because a lot of the times as an agency, a lot of our customers will come and ask us, oh, why am I tracking at number 2 now and not at number 1? Just fluctuations like that. And we often have to explain to them, well, keyword tracking is a bit finicky. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. Google rankings are in constant fluctuation, constant. It's like you can run a search right now and you're gonna get this page of search results. You can come back an hour later searching from the exact same spot and get completely different results. And so if someone said, hey, I see myself ranking in position number 1, then, why are you saying that I rank in position number 2? It's like, there's so many factors that play into that. Another big one is location. So Google relies heavily on the user's location to display the results. And so someone sitting in one spot of the city, let's say we're just talking about the city of Denver, Someone sitting on the north side, they run a search, they're going to get one set of results. Someone sitting on the west side, they run a search, they're going to get a totally different set of results. The results vary all over the place, and they even vary hour to hour. So another thing that can even impact it is what browser you're using. You can run one search in Firefox, one search in Chrome, and see different results. Google's always trying to deliver the results they think are best for your personal setup. And they're also constantly changing, because Google's algorithm isn't a like thing that, okay, these are the rankings for the next month, and then they run an update. In fact, it used to be that way. Way back in the earlier days, it was called the Google, and rankings would stay the same. The results you're seeing are responsive in real time to new data that Google is collecting. And the amount of data that they're collecting is absolutely phenomenal. So there's no such thing as a ranking. What is a ranking? It's just like there's no one ranking. There's, for every single keyword, there are 100 different ranks, and it's always fluctuating. It's always changing. And so what you're doing when you're doing rank tracking is that you're measuring the general started, and you'll see in a rank tracker that tracks daily fluctuations of like a few spots every day that it tracks. But then, let's say you started those keywords between positions 25 and 30, and it's fluctuating like that. Over the course of doing all this SEO work, you're going to slowly be moving into the fluctuating between 1 and 5. That's where you want to be, right? So it's just a matter of tracking things over time, and it does help you measure the impact of your SEO efforts. But there's just no precise ranking. It just doesn't exist because of so many different factors that Google's using to display the search results.
One big major change that we've made is for like clients who want to rank locally or care about like their organic results, we ask them, what zip codes are you targeting? Who is coming to your business? Is it around you? Is it this area over another? Just because that type of information helps us give them better reporting, like, oh, you're at position 2, you're at position 3, or things like that, just because where we are may not be where your customers are. It's like trying to figure that out.
Yeah, it's a really smart way to set up your rank tracking. So, particularly at a local business level, if you're trying to track results in the local pack and local finder, then you want to track a number of different zip codes. Like what is kind of like your surrounding area, because you might rank number 1 in your primary zip code, right where your business is, but rank number 8 in an adjacent zip code, or rank, number 15 further away. And so it's kind of good to know where you rank. And this becomes particularly important for service area businesses. Let's say you are a local plumber, and your address is actually deep on the south side, and that's where you had to register your Google listing at, because you had to get your postcard and you verified your listing deep on the south side. But you really want to attract your business from, let's say, the core or some of these affluent neighborhoods or whatever. You're like, I really want to get my business there. It's almost impossible, because Google will base your ranking off of your own address. And so most local businesses will only rank within like around a 10-mile radius around their business. But further out, it's really hard to rank, because Google wants to display businesses that are in that other area, right? So your radius of ranking is a big thing, and a lot of people don't understand that in local. It's a really important thing. Proximity to the searcher. So if I'm on the north side and I run a search, I'm going to see businesses that are relatively close to me. If I'm on the south side and I run a search, I'm going to see businesses that are relatively close to me. You want to rank around the whole city? It's pretty tough unless you're opening offices in every quadrant of the city.
Yeah, it gets even more interesting when there are like certain keywords that you might not think have local intent, but when you put them into Google or any other search engine, they pull up that local map. So Google understands that someone typing in that search term, they want a nearby solution, or they want something kind of quickly. So when you're selecting keywords, you kind of have to keep that in mind, and that way you can find what's best for your business or your business goals. So let's say you are one of those service providers who is like on the south side, but you want business from surrounding areas that you're not locally ranking in, whether that be wealthier neighborhoods, next door city, things like that. What can you do?
Yeah, there is something you can do. Now, the local pack and the local finder results are really heavily tied to the proximity. So in the actual map pack, the 3-pack, you're going to have a hard time ever getting into that. But just underneath the local pack, you're going to see the blue links, and those are the organic results. And that's where your strategy is. So what you need to do there is you create pages that are specific to either those neighborhoods or those surrounding cities, and you can drive decent traffic to those pages in the blue links, the organic results underneath the local pack. And so we have a client, like a law firm, and they're located in Edmonton. That's the city I'm from, but they can service the whole province, or the state. And so because of that, we can target these specific city pages to all these sort of major cities in all of northern Alberta that actually drive a ton of traffic. And we've calculated over the last 10 years, they've made millions of dollars off of these pages through all the different cases that they've been able to pull in from these surrounding cities. And so what you have to do in that situation is not really worry about the local pack. Just try to build these pages that are specific to each of those towns and neighborhoods, and then you really optimize them. So this example, the pages are optimized for criminal defense lawyers and attorneys in, let's say, Grand Prairie or Fort McMurray, all these sort of surrounding cities. You make a dedicated page that really goes into detail about the services you provide, where you provide those services in that city. So you'll mention the courthouse, different places about the city, and say that you offer those services in the city. And those pages can actually drive a significant amount of traffic. And so that would be how you kind of break out of the pack. If you really want to expand your radius, let's say a brand new business that's just opened up, when you first start, your radius of ranking is going to be pretty tight. You enhance your website, you get more links to your website, you get more business mentions and citations out on the internet. As you sort of grow your prominence, your radius can grow as well. And some businesses absolutely dominate almost the whole city. They can take up at least like half part of the city because they're such a huge brand that have really dominated by just like having an order of magnitude more reviews, an incredible website, tons of links from the local news pack. If you really ramp up and get way more signals than your competition, then Google's like, wow, look at this business. You're looking for a tax lawyer? This is the one, because this one has so much internet. It's just like that. Just imagine it like this sort of thing that grows. You just grow your bubble so big that you can take up a bigger area of the local pack. And so that's what can happen when you put in the effort on the local search side. But to get away from the local search, if you want to get surrounding cities, that's where you build those sort of location-specific pages of your website.
Yeah, these location-specific pages are actually really common if you look at a lot of service providers, especially those who have SEO-optimized websites. You'll often see kind of directories of the cities that they service, different services, just maximizing the content they have and optimizing it for various areas.
Yeah.
So even though these pages they can be kind of repetitive, another really important thing is to make sure that they're each unique, because Google does crawl for like unique content and you don't want to get flagged for having duplicate content.
Customize them with things, though. That's where you'll talk about the courthouse or the different things related to that area, just to sort of get these pages some unique content, and also anchor them to the location. So you can anchor them to the location by mentioning the area.
Yeah, a lot of the times it's really smart to target maybe suburbs of an area. Like if you service like in Houston, you might be better off creating pages for like the surrounding suburbs, Katy, Sugar Land, all of those, because a lot of the times if you use keyword research tools, you'll find that suburb keywords have like lower difficulties if that's something that you use. And while they may have less search volume, those are generally less common, and your page, especially if the content is good, more likely to rank.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to get in the local pack in those surrounding cities, you just need to open an office in those cities. And I would caution you cannot use a PO box. Google, that is against the guidelines. And you should not use a virtual office. If you use a virtual office, you might get the listing up for a little bit, but once Google catches wind that it's a virtual office, they'll typically remove the listing. And so inexpensive virtual offices don't typically work. The way to do it right is to actually open a real location, and to be within the guidelines, it's supposed to be serviced. Like someone could walk in there and speak to somebody that works for the company at any time. But you can often rent like really tiny offices, particularly in suburbs. They're inexpensive. You can just get like a 200 square foot little space that you've registered, or even sublet a portion off of another office, and you pay rent there. And for the cost to get all those additional business from that suburb, it's typically worth it. So that's how you do it. You stand up a brand new Google listing there, register it at that new office that you've created, and now you can start attracting local traffic through the local pack through that strategy.
Yeah, another really interesting thing is, if you notice, Google is obviously developing a word recognition software, and a lot of the times, like if your search term isn't in a business listing, sometimes you produce results that are, this website, you'll see in quotes, it'll say, this website mentions X, and things like that, just because the crawlers are getting smarter and picking up on those things.
Yeah, that's a justification. There's a few different justifications. Sometimes Google will pull in justifications from your website. So website mentions this service, this thing. Another one is from the reviews. So if reviewers mention specific things, it can get pulled in as a justification. And then the other one that I mentioned was Google Posts. So if you've done a post on that, on your business profile with that topic, justifications get pulled in from those posts, and justifications are great. This is another reason why it's worth it to put that effort into your website, into asking for reviews, into encouraging people to mention the service they had when you ask for the review. It'd be like, hey, it would be great if you left us a review. Here's a link to our Google listing. And it'd be great if you mentioned what service you had. When you ask for that review, that's really good. And as a little tip there, we have a free tool on our website called the Google Review Link Generator. So if you're looking for, like, how do I email somebody a link to my Google listing to leave me a review? We have a tool on our website. It's a free tool that will generate that.
Yeah, before we wrap up today, is there anything else you wanted to add, Darren?
I was going to drop one little thing that a lot of SEOs and particularly businesses have not thought about, is that Google is images. So you can look it up. It's called Google artificial. Is the actual, like, what is this a photo of? So let's say there's no text related to the photo. It's just what is inside this photo. And the example that really, dentist working on a patient, fixing their teeth, and if you put the two photos side by side, so one of them goes through Google Vision AI, and Google says that the picture is a picture of a man with glasses. So he didn't pick up that it was a dentist. Now you run the other photo, which is just slightly different. The guy is rotated a bit. He's holding up his dentist tool. The picture is just slightly different. You run that through Google Vision AI, and it'll tell you this is a photo of a dentist. So there's this incredible optimization opportunity where you can actually run, and you can just Google it right now, Google Vision AI, and there's a little try it thing. You can drag your photos in there, and Google will tell you what it sees inside the photos. So people don't really think about this before they upload all their photos to Google, to their Google listing, or they put the photos on their website. But Google is interpreting what is inside those photos. So instead of on your dentist website, you have a picture of a happy family just smiling, because what does Google think that's a photo of? Happy family smiling. So if you instead put a picture of a dentist at work that has already been tested through Google Vision AI to be a dentist, you're increasing your relevancy for those terms through your photos. And this is the thing that it's just kind of new. People aren't really thinking about it, but it's an optimization opportunity to make sure that your photos provide additional relevancy for your business before you upload them to Google. And you can run that and test it yourself.
Fascinating. That's kind of incredible and even news to me. So that's really exciting. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for being here today, Darren. I will, of course, include the link to the 2021 local ranking factors report down below. And if anyone has any questions, is there anywhere they can reach you?
Yes, you can just shoot me an email if you wanted, Darren@whitespark.ca, or you can find me on Twitter @DarrenShaw_. going to add a little underscore after Darren Shaw there.
Thank you to Darren for being on the podcast today. As always, if you have any questions for us, please email us at info@versacreative.com. And if you have any questions for Darren, his email is also listed below, as well as a link to the report. Please check it out. It's very insightful. Thank you.